Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk about getting rid of anxiety or depression using this one simple tip. Now, this might not get rid of all of it, but it'll turn directions, getting you on the right track to getting rid of anxiety and depression. So if you're interested, please do stay tuned. My name is Fondin. I'm the author of 11 published books, including Chakra Healing for Vibrant Energy, exploring your 7 energy centers with mindfulness, yoga, and Ayurveda. And if you want a free download of the chakra healing meditations, just go to my website, michellefondinauthor.com, go to the meditation page and scroll to the bottom and you can sign up to get that free download. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do tarot readings. You can book them at my website, michellefondinauthor.com. Let's talk a little bit about anxiety and depression and how prevalent it is in today's society. In fact, I had a major struggle with anxiety and depression between 1999, the end of 1999, and mid-2002. It was something that was nearly crippling for me. It's something I write about. That period was truly like this really dark period in my life. And I had such crippling anxiety that it was really difficult for me. I talk a lot about meditation and learning meditation and practicing meditation, which I believe is one of the most important practices, the daily routine practice that anyone can do day in and day out to live a happy, whole, and fulfilled life. However, I'm going to give that one caveat. If you are in the midst of experiencing anxiety, spinning thoughts, or depressive thoughts, meditation is not the place for you until you start to turn the wheel around or do a big U-turn in the other direction. The reason for that is if you are experiencing those never-ending streams of negative thoughts and the spinning thoughts of anxiety or the really dark depressive thoughts of depression, meditation isn't going to do anything for you because you will sit, and in my practice of meditation that I teach you a mantra, but even then it'll be really hard for you to repeat that mantra because your mind is already spinning in the wrong direction. So what we want to do first is get you spinning in the right direction, even if it's 1 or 2% in the right direction, because once you gain momentum, you'll keep going in that direction. But it's going to take some time if this is where you are at. If you're in the place that I was at between the end of 1999 and 2002, where it was really difficult for me to keep a positive thought going. Here's what was happening with me and how I began to turn it around. And this is the big tip you're going to want to hold on to. I began having extreme depression and anxiety where I knew I always had that observer effect. I knew in the background that that wasn't me. And it was due to some external circumstances. It was due to many things, but one was a medical circumstance. I didn't know what to do with it because I had been relatively anxious most of my life, but since I'm an eternal optimist, I was able to keep much of that anxiety at bay because I'm an eternal optimist. And so even if I had started going in the negative direction, I would always turn it around with more optimistic or hopeful thoughts. But around that time, when I had all these things going on in my life, I woke up with this feeling of gloom and doom every single day. And in fact, I kept a chart. I'm not kidding you. I was on supplements. I was doing exercise. I was doing a bunch of things to try to turn it around. But I would keep a chart and I had a column literally that said blue days, like blue meaning I'm feeling blue today. But blue days, and I would have notes in that column because I was really trying to see the correlation with what I'm doing, what I'm eating, how I'm exercising, how I'm sleeping, and these really deep, dark blue days that I would call them, in order to figure out how to turn it around. And it was something that was really crippling to me. Sometimes the anxiety went into not wanting to leave the house because I had panic attacks while I was driving. And I went off to the hospital, to the emergency room a few times because of these panic attacks. And in fact, at that time, I didn't even really understand what a panic attack was. I really thought I was dying. And then when it came to the darker or deeper depressive thoughts, I began having a lot of guilt and shame around having those thoughts because I really truly didn't understand that I am the thinker of the thoughts. And when you're in that space of something chemical happening in your body where my hormones were all off, it began to have this effect where I was like blaming myself for having those thoughts, and it really wasn't me. When that happens, you begin to spin deeper and deeper and deeper into your anxiety and depression, and that's exactly what happened with me. But because I had that sense of the observer, and I talk a lot about this during my meditation classes, like that observer, that other part of you, that higher spiritual self of you that knows that what you're experiencing in your daily life is not who you are. It's just an experience of what you're having right now in this current moment. The observer in me kept saying, this is not you, this is not you, this is not who you are. And because it was really a struggle for me to reverse those negative thoughts and the spinning thoughts, I began a daily habit of gratitude and appreciation. And I know this sounds trite, I know this sounds super trivial, but honestly, that was the only thing that helped me turn around those negative thoughts. So I began with something extremely simple. I began with appreciating things like my breath, being able to wake up in the morning, being able to get up in the morning. The big thing for me was if the sun was shining in the sky, I began appreciating that. And it was really down to the microcosm of things, in order to turn my thoughts around from that negative spinning, the guilt of those negative spinning thoughts, and the deep darkness I felt from those blue days, as I mentioned, as I called them. These moments of appreciation began to be a part of my daily dialogue. And I knew that once I started on this cycle of truly appreciating everything that I touched, everything that I saw, everything that I heard that was positive, everything that I felt in the way of a tactile, sensation, if I hugged my kids or I hugged my cat, I really began that cycle of turning it around into a positive. Now, this took a really long time because, as I mentioned, there was something else medically going on. But as I began this practice of appreciation and gratitude for the very, very, very smallest things that most of us take for granted every single day, I began to turn my thoughts around. The reason why this works is because you cannot hold a negative thought of feeling bad, feeling guilty, feeling shameful, feeling blue. You cannot hold a negative thought like that and at the same time have a thought of appreciation and gratitude. It's impossible to hold both of those thoughts at the same time. Now, even if your mind goes back and forth, like you say, I'm so happy to have the air that I breathe, the clean air that I am able to breathe with every breath, every day. I'm really grateful that I have clean air to breathe. This makes me feel so good to have this clean air. As you're saying that, you can only focus on having the clean air. But let's suppose that if you're starting this afterward, you're like, oh, I feel so down. and it's really hard for me to get up off the couch. And I don't even want to go take a shower because I'm so depressed and it wouldn't make any difference anyway. So even if you go to that, if you go to the next thought of gratitude, like, I'm really happy that I had breakfast this morning and that I have food in the refrigerator. And I'm really grateful for the people that grow the food. I'm really happy for those farmers and the manufacturers that package the vegetables and fruits and the milk and the soy milk. I'm really grateful and so happy for the people that put my food together so that I do not have to grow it. And I'm really thankful to those people for growing the food, transporting the food. I'm really so happy that I don't have to go out there, dig in the dirt, and do it myself. So as soon as you flip back to that thought of appreciation and gratitude, you can't go along the same stream of being blue. It's just virtually impossible. You cannot do it. So when you're really, really anxious, for example, and you're like, the world's coming to an end, right? The world's coming to an end and so many people are going to get into accidents and so many people are dying of cancer and all these negative thoughts that keep coming up for you. If you go back to the present moment, into the here and now, and really focus on the appreciation, it takes you completely out of that other mindset and you have to keep going with it. So the great way to do this is to go back into your present moment, because anxiety exists in the potential future. Depression exists in the past. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? This is truth. If you go back to the present moment, that is where your power is. Because anxiety exists in a potential future that may or may not happen, and depression exists in the past. Okay? Depression is all about regret and shame and blame and guilt. And anxiety is always nervousness, frustration, worry about something that may or may not happen. So that's future. But if you go back to the present moment in what is happening in the here and now, right here, and you go back to the appreciation of, I am so grateful for my toes and the balls of my feet and my heel and the skin on my feet and the muscles and the bones. And I'm not joking you, this sounds so trivial, but if you do this, you will come back to the present. You will come back to appreciation in the present moment, gratitude in the present moment, rootedness in the present moment, and you cannot possibly entertain the thoughts of depression and anxiety when you're rooted in your present moment. And so what I began to do was I used to do this every single day, every single morning, every single afternoon, every single evening. And at first it was really, really hard. And what I did was I used to sit at my kids' little picnic table that was designed for 2 to 4-year-olds. I used to sit there with them, take out a bunch of crayons and paper, and I would literally be drawing, and I cannot draw, but I would literally be drawing suns and butterflies and flowers. And I was just drawing everything positive that I could possibly think of with my kids. And like I said, I cannot draw. So it looked like their drawings and they were like 1.5 and 5. But I was drawing, I was doing these drawings, and then I would go one step further. I would take those drawings and I would tape them to my walls, because my anxiety and depression was so bad at that time that I couldn't even hold a thought long enough of something that was good. And so I needed visual evidence of it. And so my visual evidence was drawing those sunshines and drawing the flowers and drawing the butterflies and being able to visually see things in nature that made me happy. And then I would go back to those thoughts. I'm really appreciative for the blood that is racing and coursing through my veins today. I'm so happy to have my heart that's beating. I'm so happy for the ability to laugh when I can laugh and smile when I can smile. And if you put this into practice every single day, even for a few seconds, even for a few minutes, and when you're starting to spin in your negativity, just go to that thought of appreciation and gratitude for the most trivial thing possible. Because that trivial thing will then turn into bigger things and bigger thoughts. And then you will turn that vehicle around, you will turn that car around that was moving in the wrong direction and move it into the right direction, so that when you adopt a really healthful practice like meditation, you will, I guarantee you, you will have success in turning your mindset around completely. And this is what happened with me when I learned meditation. I was able to turn that mindset around 100% completely. And while it tried to creep in from time to time, and while it tried to take me over in various aspects of my life or different years in my life, because this has been a long time, I was always able to bring that car back around and push it into the right direction, not even pull it, propel it into the right direction, because I had that meditation practice. I was able to overcome a big phobia that I had with my meditation practice, but in the initial stages of it, I wouldn't have been able to do it without turning the vehicle around by doing these baby steps of appreciation and gratitude for the most minute things that had to do with me. Because at the time, I couldn't even really go into appreciation of my children, even though I love my children 100%. It's just that children represent something that's great, but they also represent a big responsibility. So something that's really great, but a big responsibility can also bring you anxiety and depression when you think about it. But when you go back to something like the air that I breathe, or the blood coursing through my veins, or my heart beating, you're really going back to the basics of what you can be grateful for. And your fingers and toes, right? Your fingers and toes and your knees and your joints. And the sun that rises and sets each day, and the moon that rises and sets each day, and the stars that are in the sky. So you can go to those really basic ones, because if you go to more complex ones, as I mentioned, it can spin you in the wrong direction where you had been going with your anxiety and depression. So the simpler, the better. I know very few people that can get really angry or depressed or anxious about a butterfly flying in the sky. Most people really wouldn't have a lot of agenda around that. So sunshine, rainbows, butterflies, anything like that that you can be in appreciation of can start to turn that wheel around, and you can be able to move in the right direction to get rid of the anxiety and depression enough so that when you put other practices that are going to bring you more health and wellness on a day-to-day basis, that it won't be futile, right? It won't be a futile effort because you're blaming yourself, okay, now I can't meditate. Well, you can't meditate because you haven't turned the wheel around yet. So I hope this was helpful. I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications, and thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this with others who might be dealing with anxiety or depression. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. I have 11 published books. They are all on Amazon. I also have my meditation course. When you're ready to take it, the links are all below. And I will see you in the next video.